The movie opens up with the young and beautiful main character, Suzumi Yosano, wandering around the streets of Tokyo. She is holding a piece of paper in her hand, which contains the address to her uncle's house. Suzumi desperately tries, but sadly fails to find the address. Tired, she sits on a bench in a park. Here, we learn that her father was transferred to Bangladesh for his job, and she was forced to move to Tokyo with her uncle to continue her studies. Back in the present, while she is eating in the park, Suzumi suddenly notices a shooting star. She believes shooting stars are very lucky because when she was lost as a child, a shooting star guided her home. After gazing at the star for some time, Suzumi unexpectedly loses consciousness and starts falling to the ground. Luckily, a handsome guy catches her in time and stops her fall. Coincidentally, the guy turns out to be a friend of her uncle's, and after seeing the address in her hand, he brings her directly to her uncle's place. Later, when Suzumi opens her eyes, she finds the same handsome man, Satsuki Shishisho, standing in front of her. She also sees her uncle Yuchiki and is thrilled to have finally found him. At first, Yuchiki apologizes to her, then offers her a delicious meal. Yuchiki tells her that Satsuki is a junior teacher at a school, and he is the one who brought her to his home. The following day, Suzumi goes to her new high school wearing a long conservative dress. Sadly, everyone looks at her and makes fun of her outdated style. Just then, Satsuki calls her from behind and tells her that all of the new students must visit the teacher's office before they enter their classroom. Satsumi is not only shocked to see him there, but also to learn that he is actually her homeroom teacher. Later, Satsuki introduces her to the whole class and suggests she sit beside a shy and complicated guy, Daiki. As Suzumi doesn't have her own books, she asks Daiki to help her out. When she tries to pull his book towards her, she accidentally touches his hand, prompting him to pull it back quickly. Here, we learn that Daiki doesn't like being touched by girls and prefers to stay away from them. During lunch, Suzumi is ignored by her classmates, so she goes to the rooftop to have her lunch alone. She understands that it's difficult to make friends in high school, but just then, Satsuki arrives there and teases her for failing to make new friends. He suggests she make the first move, talk to her classmates, and ask them to be her friend. Following Satsuki's suggestions, while returning home, Suzumi meets Daiki and thanks him for lending her his books earlier. Despite this, Daiki ignores her and walks away, but to his surprise, Suzumi grabs his hand. When she touches him, his cheeks instantly turn red. Daiki then immediately pulls his hand away and tells her to stay away from him. Seeing this, Suzumi deduces that he has a problem with a woman's touch and decides to use it to her benefit. She blackmails him into being her friend and to sit beside her in class. Daiki refuses at first, but after Suzumi promises not to tell anybody about his weakness, he accepts her proposal and the two become friends. The following day, they enter the classroom together, and everyone is surprised to see Daiki talking to a girl. Soon, some classmates approach him and ask him to join their group to complete an assignment. Suzumi asks Daiki to let her join his group, but at the same time, another girl, Yuyuka, calls Suzumi and invites her to her group. Apparently, Yuyuka likes Daiki and she is trying to get close to him by using Suzumi. Unaware of this, Suzumi is just happy to have someone approach her first. The two groups then decide to do their assignment together. In the next scene, the whole class goes on a field trip where the students are asked to catch fish. Suzumi does really well and catches a lot of fish, surprising everyone. Seeing her getting close to Daiki, Yuyuka feels jealous and tells her to collect some wood from the forest. Obliging, Suzumi leaves her fishing rod and heads towards the forest. Seeing her head off alone, Daiki decides to follow her. As soon as they leave, Suzuki approaches the students and tells them to stop fishing and to pack it up to return to the school, as bad weather is approaching. Next, while searching for firewood, Suzumi suddenly feels lost, but is relieved to see Daiki behind her. Unfortunately, both of them are clueless about where they are. Suddenly, it starts raining, and Suzumi gets cold. The two take shelter under a shed, waiting for the rain to stop, and hoping that someone will come to rescue them. While waiting, Suzumi falls asleep on Daiki's shoulder. Back at school, Satsuki finds out that Daiki and Suzumi are missing and decides to return to the location to find them. In the next scene, after the rain has stopped, Daiki tries to carry Suzumi but fails. Just then, Satsuki arrives there and rescues both of them. Suzumi is happy Satsuki is caring for her and starts liking him more. However, Daiki is surprised to see the closeness between the two. The following day, Suzumi meets Yuyuka at the basketball court and accuses her of purposely sending her into the forest alone. Surprisingly, the evil Yuyuka accepts the accusation and then belittles Suzumi and her silly friends. This enrages the latter and she immediately slaps Yuyuka. In response, she gets pushed to the floor. At the same time, Daiki enters the court with his friends, and seeing Suzumi on the floor, he asks if they are fighting. Surprisingly, Suzumi gets up, grabs Yuyuka, and lies to him saying that they are just practicing wrestling. After Daiki and his friends leave, Yuyuka apologizes to her for her behavior and asks to be friends. Suzumi is happy to make a new friend. From that day onwards, the two start spending time together. One day, Yuyuka gives Suzumi a makeover, and after completing it, goes to get her phone. As soon as she leaves, Satsuki enters the classroom. Afraid to show him her new look, Suzumi rushes to the nearby window and covers her face with the curtain. Satsuki notices her, and when he pulls away the curtain, he is mesmerized by her new appearance. Suzumi gets embarrassed and runs away. Daiki notices her running, but keeps staring at her beauty. Next, Satsuki visits Suzumi at her uncle's place and takes her out shopping. While out, the two roam around the market, play different games, and enjoy their time together. Suzumi tells him about her belief about the daytime shooting star and compares him with it. Here, it is revealed that Suzumi has fallen in love with Satsuki. After that, she starts oogling Satsuki wherever he goes in the school. One day, Daiki catches her in the act, but doesn't say anything to her. He just approaches her and kisses her on the cheeks, leaving her speechless. On Christmas Eve, Yuyuka tells Suzumi that she is well aware of the fact that she likes Satsuki. She also suggests Suzumi not waste any time and confess her love for him. Sadly, when Suzumi messages Satsuki to ask him to celebrate Christmas with her, he replies that he is busy. This breaks Suzumi's heart, and she even backs out of the plan to go to karaoke with her friends. Later, while she is returning home, Daiki stops her and takes her to see the beautiful Christmas trees. He also reveals that he knows about her feelings for Satsuki. At first, Suzumi is surprised, but later, she tells him that it's actually her birthday. She wanted to share her feelings with Satsuki on this occasion. After hearing this, Daiki gives her his scarf and wishes her a very happy birthday, pinching her cheek. In the meantime, Suzumi gets a message from Satsuki asking her to meet him. Excited, she rushes to the said location. After they meet, she gives him a Christmas gift and in return gets a ticket for an aquarium tour, which she has always wanted. A happy Suzumi gets very close to Satsuki. However, as the two are about to kiss, Satsuki backs out. He then walks Suzumi home. Unfortunately, Yuchiki notices him and calls him inside. He criticizes Satsuki for being close to a student and eventually asks him to stay away from his niece. He also suggests he respect the boundaries between a teacher and a student and never cross it. The next day, Daiki grabs Satsuki by his collar and warns him against playing with Suzumi's feelings. Later, after school is over, Suzumi gathers some courage and confesses her love to Satsuki. To her dismay, he rejects her and politely tells her that they cannot be together. He even cancels the date to visit the aquarium and mentions the feelings that she has for him are not love. This breaks Suzumi's heart and she walks out of his office with teary eyes. Outside, she meets Daiki, who is waiting for her. Suzumi tells him that she got rejected and starts crying. Daiki immediately approaches her and hugs her, trying to console her. He even tells her that she can forget Satsuki and love him instead. Right then, Yuyuka arrives there and notices Daiki and Suzumi embracing each other. She is left speechless and storms away. Suzumi runs after her and tries to explain, but Yuyuka doesn't want to listen. Rather, she accuses Suzumi of lying to her about her love for Daiki and departs. After getting rejected by the man she loved and losing her best friend, an upset Suzumi returns home without informing anyone. Her mother warmly welcomes her home and is very happy to see her. Although she notices her daughter is suffering and struggling with something, she decides not to ask. Suzumi doesn't attend school for days, prompting Daiki and Yuyuka to visit her home. Suzumi is surprised to see them there. They all have dinner together, and later, the two girls work through their misunderstanding. Yuyuka tells Suzumi that she too got rejected by Daiki. The two then end up throwing pillows at each other and reconcile. Later in the night, Suzumi talks to Daiki and thanks him for visiting her. In the next scene, Suzumi decides to cry only when she is happy and returns to school. Her classmates are happy to see her back, and Suzumi tries her best to erase Satsuki from her thoughts. Meanwhile, the female freshman students crush on Daiki and follow him everywhere at school. During recess, while Suzumi is feeding the aquarium fish, Satsuki approaches her and tries to talk to her. Fortunately, Daiki arrives, introducing himself as her boyfriend. Satsuki believes it and walks away. Meanwhile, Suzumi is perplexed by what just happened. However, They devise a plan to date each other to help Daiki get rid of the freshman girls and to keep Satsuki away from Suzumi. From that day onwards, they start spending more time together. Daiki even gives her a ticket to the aquarium, and Suzumi readily accepts it. The two then enjoy their time at the aquarium, and on their way back, Daiki confesses his real feelings for Suzumi and tells her that he is not expecting any answer from her. He simply offers her time to think and make up her mind. The whole night, Suzumi thinks about her and Daiki's relationship, and as soon as it is morning, she rushes to meet him outside his house. She admits that she feels very happy and calm around him, but does not know if that is love or something else. Despite getting such a confusing answer, Daiki takes it as a yes and is elated. At school, Daiki is taking part in a relay race practice, while Suzumi is in a class knitting something. Right then, Satsuki approaches her and hugs her from behind. To his dismay, Suzumi escapes from his arms and leaves. The scene then shifts to the day of the relay race competition, where Satsuki is also participating. Suzumi calls Daiki and gives him a headband that she knitted for him the day before, and he excitedly promises to win the race. As Daiki promised, he wins the race with a fine margin, but notices Suzumi still looking at Satsuki. The next day, Satsumi learns that Satsuki recently met with an accident and is currently in the hospital. Worried, she meets up with Daiki and tells him about the situation. The latter suggests she go and visit him. Daiki also reveals that he knows she still loves him and assures her that he is okay with it. Sazumi then takes the next train and immediately rushes to the hospital. Later, when she arrives at the hospital, she meets Satsuki and is relieved to find him in perfectly good condition. Satsuki apologizes for rejecting her earlier and tells her the reason why he did so. He then expresses his love for her, but to his surprise, Suzumi rejects him. She tells him that after she arrived at the hospital, she realized that the special person in her life was not him, but someone else. In the last scene, while Daiki is standing alone in the park looking at the nearby pond, he hears Suzumi's voice calling out his name. At first, he thinks he is dreaming, but soon, Suzumi appears and jumps on him. While on top of Daiki, she confesses her feelings for him and tells him that he was always in her mind while she was talking to Satsuki. The movie ends with Satsumi saying, "I love you," and kissing Daiki passionately.